Hey world, what up? You already know what time it is with Nick's MVP ladder in the NBA standings as of right now and MVP rankings. Um, Listen, I already stated my case for the past couple weeks. It's been pretty consistent. The MVP as of right now should be Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers. And why is that? Phillies remained at the number one seed in the Eastern Conference for the past couple weeks straight. And Philadelphia is sitting at a 22-12 record, a half game over the Brooklyn Nets and one game over the Milwaukee Bucks. Hey, kudos to the Knicks, sitting at a 4 seed in the East, but we won't be covering them. Just had to shut them out. The top three seeds in the East are the 76ers, the Nets, and the Bucks. Now, due to voter fatigue, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's not going to get a third straight MVP, even if he does have a dominant performance. That's not going to happen. With the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant has been out for around 6 to 7 games, so he's going to be out of the picture. And James Harden, who's been having an excellent second half of his standings when it comes to the Rockets and Nets performance, too little, too late, but he's not in that MVP standing top 5. If you want to go around top 7, okay, but James Harden's having a great part of his season, moving into that point guard role, but he's not an MVP. If you look at Philadelphia, it's going to be Joel Embiid, who's averaging 30 a night, giving you back-to-back 40-point dominant performances, who's been consistent and playing at a high level. So that's how it goes in the Eastern Conference. If you're looking down into the West, the Utah Jazz are sitting at number 1 seed. Donovan Mitchell is not going to get that MVP. He does not have the stats, let alone the impact. At that level for an MVP, he does have impact, though. And if you're looking within next, the LA Lakers and LeBron James, who's been slitting ever since Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder have been out for the past couple of 3 to 4 games. But LeBron James, for me, is still one of the top players for the MVP considerations. As of right now, you can throw out names for Nikola Jokic as well as for Damian Lillard. But you do have the Portland Trail Blazers sitting at the 6th seed and the Nuggets at 7th. So as of right now, you do have Joel Embiid sitting pretty much on an island by himself. Let's cover a little more here on Nick's MVP.
Back here with Antoine Walker. All right, Antoine, we are approaching the halfway mark of the season. So we want to invite you into a conversation that we have every so often on the show, a conversation that's always fun, but it's generally always heated as well. We like to call it Nick's updated NBA MVP ladder. So, Nick, go ahead, lay it all out for us.
All right, before Nick goes, my standings as of right now, Joel Embiid is number 1. And number 2, I do have LeBron James at number 3. It's going to be a tough one here for number 3 and number 4. I do have Nikola Jokic and Damian Lillard, but they are sitting at a 6 and 7 seed. So not much to where I'll put them in really in that standings. But besides from them, I can't really throw any other names out there that are going to justify being within those numbers. So pretty much for me, Joel Embiid is an island by himself at number 1. At number 2, I am putting LeBron James. And then at 3, 4, and 5, pretty much any order, you can have Jokic, Damian Lillard, and Steph Curry.
First, and then Antoine, we're going to have you react.
Oh, Jenna, I do not think this is going to be heated. I think this is going to be incredibly gracious, well received. I think there's going to be a lot of compliments flowing because what I'm about to debut is a flawless MVP ladder. Give me the bottom tier of the ladder. Number 8, hey, let's show some respect to the Brooklyn Nets. James Harden, did he come into camp 20 pounds overweight and quit on the Rockets? Sure. But as a net, he's been spectacular. He has been distributing the ball. He has been stepping up when KD's out. James Harden's on the list.
You know, if Harden can keep this up towards the second half of the season and pretty much him being the number 1 impact player for the Brooklyn Nets, he's easily going to rise up as a top 3 MVP. Within my rankings. As of right now, it's a little too premature. I do have Harden around number 6, number 7, but, you know, he could be cracking at the number 5, potentially the number 4. They have won around, I believe, 7 out of the last 8 games if you're the Brooklyn Nets. So that idea is somewhat warming up to me as Kevin Durant has been out. But you got to remember, he had that fiasco the first couple games with the Houston Rockets and then his first couple games with the Brooklyn Nets when he was playing with, and I'm saying with Kyrie Irving. His numbers, of course, went down offensively. And I know he became more of a, raising up his assists. But due to those performances, he pretty much was deferring a lot. So that was taken away from him. So pretty much what I'm saying is, let's cover the second half of the season. If he's this consistent and dominant with an impact, and if the Brooklyn Nets, they're half a game away from the number 1 seed, if he continues this, he will raise up easily top 3 alongside with Joel Embiid and LeBron James.
Damian Lillard, nearly 30 points per game, carrying the momentum from the bubble. Got the Blazers not having to play in a play-in game this season, it would look like. So the Dame, he's number 7. Nikola Jokic leads the league in PER. A monster stat line. What's he averaging? 27, 11, and 8. The best passing big man since Bill Walton. By the way, stop calling him the best passing center ever. Like Bill Walton, it didn't exist. He did, but Jokic is the best since then. So that is your first grouping. Now there's a gap between them and the next group. Show me the next group. Coming in at number 5, Kawhi Leonard. The only reason Kawhi Leonard is not number 3 is the games missed. He's already missed 7 games, but he has been spectacular. I would argue it's the best season of his professional career. Number 4, Giannis. I know nobody cares about Giannis anymore. 1, 2 MVPs, had 2 postseason flameouts. He's not going to win the MVP this year, but all he's doing is 29, 12, and 6. He's playing more minutes than last year, which I think is important. Giannis, number 4.
If he puts LeBron James at number 1 as of right now, that's pure biasness. LeBron James should not be number 1. He is number 2. Joel Embiid should be number 1 within this list. And I'll give credit to CP3, who's with the Phoenix Suns sitting at around a 4 seed. What are they? I think they have like a 21-11 record. They're a game behind the 3rd seed with the Phoenix Suns. But, I mean, even though he does have the impact for the Suns, I still wouldn't put CP3 at number 3.
In the controversy, Chris Paul, my guy Antoine, doesn't even have him as an all-star. The Suns last year pre-bubble were 29 and 30. I'm sorry, they were worse than that. Pre-bubble, they were winning 40% of their basketball games. 40%. What's the difference? Chris Paul. So I don't care that his counting stats aren't great. He is as good of a closer as anyone in basketball. He's the second best leader in basketball. He is the difference and the reason why the Suns are at 2 games out of the 2 seed in the West. Now there's a big gap. And this, by the way, as of 18 hours ago, 1 and 2 were flipped. But then Joel Embiid had a 3 for 13, following up a game where he was 6 for 20. Last night he had 6 turnovers. We don't talk about it because we only talk about the guy at the top of the ladder like this. Show me the top 2. It's Embiid and LeBron. They are...
Hey, listen, I don't think LeBron James has had 2 40-point games this whole season. And Joel Embiid's had multiple dominant performances. Let me hear more about this.
Neck and neck. Embiid was number 1 literally 14 hours ago. I don't have a watch on, but that's what it would say. But he had a bad game last night. LeBron, I understand he had lost his previous game, but he did have, 31, 9, and 11. So LeBron retakes the slightest of leads. It is this close between the two. Antoine Walker.
Listen, it's not that close with Joel Embiid, LeBron James, to where it's around 52 to 48%. Going back to 4th game with game. When you're looking at Joel Embiid, and if you're looking at LeBron James, it's sitting more at... You're seeing LeBron James against Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's leading pretty much around 60%, and LeBron's sitting at that 40% as of right now, especially after LeBron James lost 4 games straight in a row without Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder. That pretty much put a downward momentum for LeBron James. It's not a good look. But the Lakers have won back-to-back ever since. And again, you have plenty more basketball games out there, so nothing worried for LeBron James as of right now. Joel Embiid has proven he's top of the Eastern Conference, averaging 30 a night, dominant 40-point performances. If one game he shoots 6 for 20, that's not that big of a deal as of right now. Because LeBron James has been pretty subpar with 20-point outings. We haven't seen that many high 30, let alone 40-point games for LeBron James. So LeBron James is just coasting, pretty much sitting the longevity game. And I've always stated with LeBron James, he has the greatest chance to win the regular season MVP due to longevity, playing the most games. And the Lakers pretty much going to be top of the standings. For Joel Embiid, I would be highly impressed if he plays majority of the games, let alone with these dominant performances of wins. But you do have the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks that are coming for that number 1 seed alongside to go against the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's see if Joel Embiid can be consistent or not. Do I think that will be the case? Probably not. And if it is pretty close to where the Sixers are sitting at a 2nd or 3rd seed and the Lakers are sitting 1, 2, or 3, and if it's that close against Embiid and LeBron, the media, they're going to give it to LeBron James for a last regular season MVP run. They will.
Admit it. That's a flawless MVP ladder.
Nick, man, you know I love you. You know you my guy. You're usually like 85%. I can usually go to bed. When I'm at the barbershop and my guys are talking about you and do I like Nick right, I usually like you 85%. I'm like, Nick is usually right. You got this totally wrong. I was shocked when I saw this list. First of all, let's stop with it. Should never be 8 people up for MVP right now. So let's stop with the 8.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Antoine. Listen, I stated at the beginning of this video, there's only 2 players in top consideration for MVP. Everybody else is irrelevant. I threw out Jokic, Damian Lillard, and Steph Curry, and it's blasphemous that Nick didn't even have Steph Curry on this list, but I listed those 3 names as number 3, 4, and 5 because I kind of wanted to show that separation of other players out there. But in all honesty, this is a 2-man race, and it will continue to be so until the end. These other players are irrelevant in this conversation. Now, do you have to give them kudos? Do you have to give them respect? Yeah, you do. But if I'm listening to LeBron James and Joel Embiid, and then at the bottom, I do have Steph Curry, Jokic, and Damian Lillard. Jokic, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry are not on that tier as an impact for an MVP candidate than LeBron and Embiid. No way, no how. They're sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference. I'm not going to give someone as a legitimate candidate if they're sitting at a 6th, 7th, or 8th seed in their conference. Not happening.
Let's start right there. Jokic obviously should never be number 6. He should be 3. So 6 is way too far for a guy who's almost averaging a triple-double. So he should.
Real quick, and from 3 to down, there's such a stretch from Embiid and LeBron, and then you have that huge stretch after them to 3 to whatever, because you have a bunch of players like Jokic, Damian Lillard having career seasons, but they're sitting at the bottom of their Western Conference playoff standings. So I can't put them in that tier as legitimate to win it. So if you want to put them 3 and downward, I get what you're saying, but there's got to be a huge stretch within that.
Be 3. Dame should not be on the list, and I love Dame. We all know that.
No, sir. No, sir. The Portland Trailblazers right now do not have CJ McCollum and Nikola Jokic, as well as Zach Collins, and they're sitting at right now at an 18-14 record, pretty much close from a 5th and 6th seed. So you got to give Dame Dalla his credit.
James Harden definitely not on the list. And stop giving Chris Paul all this love. He's not in the MVP race. He is a great leader. He has helped the Phoenix Suns improve, but he's not in that type of conversation. Now, you want to get a correct top 4 list, we got it real easy. Embiid is 1.
Thank you.
LeBron's 2.
Thank you.
Jokic is 3.
Very close.
Sure.
And then Kawhi Leonard is 4. And he's.
You can put Kawhi Leonard for me. I'll probably put him most likely 6th or 7th. But besides from that, I get what you're saying.
Moving up the ladder game by game. Because if we're going to put Embiid 1, Embiid has a chance to not play in a lot of games. He's already missed 5 games. You talk about the 7 Kawhi's missed. We're not going to talk about games played right now. Kawhi is up there and quietly sneaking up that ladder because they are 2nd in the West and they're starting to put together a really good record. But, Nick, I'm disappointed in you that you got 8 people on here.
No.
You're supposed to stop every producer, everybody.
Listen, at the end, if it comes to Embiid, LeBron, or Kawhi, or whatever, they're going to give it to LeBron James out of those 2 other players. They will do so.
We're going to stop at 5 at least. This is embarrassing. You got 8 guys on here.
Here's just to be fair, just quickly to be fair,
It's embarrassing,
there's 2
Nick.
reasons I had 8 guys on the list, and then I'll go to you, Brandon. One is the MVP ballot. You submit 5 names, So I wanted to show you the 5 I would submit and then the 3 that just missed. And last week or 2 weeks ago, I said if you listed 8 MVPs, Steph Curry wouldn't be on there. And
Nah, man, that's blasphemous. That's disrespectful. I'm gonna end off here. Nobody want to hear Brandon talk after this. This is a 2-man MVP race. It's going to be against LeBron James and Joel Embiid. I do have Embiid as the number 1. Now, during to the trend of the end of the season, I fully expect LeBron James to take the number 1 mantle due to narrative, fan voting. The media loves LeBron James, giving him an excuse to try to give him an MVP. And this will be his case. It's going to be close with LeBron and Embiid. But I don't expect Joel Embiid to have the high performances, longevity, let alone playing in most majority of these games at the second half of the season. And the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets are knocking on the door to the Philadelphia 76ers. So if the Sixers and Lakers finish top 2 in the West and the Eastern Conference, they will give it to LeBron James to win that regular season MVP, as I fully expect. Within that, everyone else is pretty much irrelevant. Even when it comes to Kawhi Leonard getting the number 1 seed, they're not going to give it to Kawhi Leonard over LeBron James. No way, no how, that's not happening. And voter fatigue, Giannis is out of the discussion. He's been irrelevant in the MVP race for the past couple 20 games or so. This is going to be LeBron James and Joel Embiid. We'll see who covers more in the depths of the second half of the season. I'm out.